Welcome back. This is Squider Dragon with the next episode of Borrow the Gadwish. In this episode, we will see that we rank up finally to Gold Tier 4. Enjoy the matches. The first match when it gets underway. When I started the run in this tier, I think the very first match I had was somebody who quit, so you'll see when we get to the end of this match. In this first match, it was a win, and I was already up to 3 levels on this level, but to say one of them came from a match, an opponent that quit, didn't even get started in the match, so I got some credit, I guess, for that in this this sequence. So our opponent playing the Johnny Avatar. David HR99. It's an unusual name. Maybe he works in the HR department. As I've seen with some of the other episodes, a Johnny can often end up being mono black, Orzhov, and I think this is likewise. So Johnny Avatar playing an Orzhov deck. Gets off to a decent start. Cruel Celebrant. I play out Cerulean Drake. Opponent goes up to 3 mana. Attacks. Clearly no blocks here. Surprised there was a no turn 3 play. I try and conclave the Celebrant, but the conclave is met with a Mortify. Clearly the opponent wants to keep the Celebrant on the board. Oddly, he didn't follow up with an attack, so lost out in the point of damage, but obviously the Drake attacks in for 1. My mana, as you can see, developing nicely, so on 4 land I've got 2 Wanderers, but it's interesting to see what happens. So Wanderer being cast out, the opponent's reaction. At least in this match, the Planeswalker was doing its job of being a target for the opponent's removal. And you'd expect with an Orzhov deck that removal, whether in terms of murders or in this case you see the opponent became prepared, despark to handle planeswalkers as well. But that's fine because that means there's no significant threat from the power on the board. And I'm quite happy to keep plugging away with the Drake. Interesting play here from the opponent's point of view, playing revenge, so taking my life total down by quite some bit, giving himself a massive boost, but you'll see I managed to turn this round. Interesting sequence of plays. The opponent's deck was designed to have this one particular powerful play, and for that to put him in the driving seat is that you'll see that doesn't quite happen, as you'll see soon. It was nice in this match as well, again, to have negates. So I cast out the second Wanderer, and again attacking with the Drake. Now the next sequence with this 6 mana is interesting from the opponent. So in terms of the way he's built his deck, so casting out these 2 creatures, now at this point in time, with life dropping down quite a bit, it was great to draw into enough land for the Dream Trawler. And again, they're both in the air. This time I decide to hold the Drake black just because of the life total. But I've got good cards in hand to play once I get to a situation where I can untap the mana. So again, another D-Spark to take out the Planeswalker. But the opponent is now down to 2 cards in hand. And despite being massively ahead in life, he does an attack here. From my point of view, it was odd, I think, to attack with a Celebrant. Bit of a mistake, so I certainly wasn't going to attack the Death Touch nor the Minister because of the creating of the tokens, the afterlife from the tokens. So that shores health up. Opponent uses brought back to return the Celebrant. So obviously Keen's part of his ploy to have that around. Now here with the mana that I have, gives me a nice opportunity to start to use some tempo plays now I've drawn into the Brazen Borrower. So the petty theft target, given that I had a consideration around this, but I think the best target was the Ministrant because it's got more power, 2 power. So that gets sent back, that pumps the Dream Trawler up. And again, with the efficiency of the mana from the Borrower, I bring out the creature side of the Borrower just to get more power on the board. Another flyer. And I can attack in with the Dream Trawler. At this point in time, the opponent's seen enough, so decides to quit, rather than having to wait played out. So you see here where I've got this one which just came from the just auto concession from starting the first match. With this win, I knock up 2 more notches, so we're halfway towards achieve the target of leveling up to gold tier 4 onto the next match. Because we ranked up at the end of this video like I did before, I will do the deck tech, so it'll give you an idea with what the full deck is. And there's some interesting things. I found doing the deck tech quite interesting just from my own point of view, even though obviously I've built the deck, but sometimes you don't fully consider or realise exactly what the full capabilities of some of the cards of the deck. So it was nice doing the deck tech to suddenly make some points, which I'll do when we get to looking at it at the end of this series of matches. So this next match, interestingly, was a loss. It probably should have been a win, but there's a misplay, but we'll see. I'll talk about that when it comes up. But for a vast majority of this match, again, a good start with mana. Remember again, and we'll look at this at the end of the deck tech, I say the deck only runs 23 lands, which might seem a bit unusual, but the matches I've been playing, that there have been mana issues, but it's less than being mana screwed, more about having the correct colour of mana, given it's a 2-colour deck. So in some cases I've had not enough white, in some cases the white lands plains, in some cases it's been a lack of blue. In this particular match the lack of blue hurt, but you see I at least had one island at this point in time, but we'll see what happens in this match. It's interesting, it's red deck again, not pure red, but it's obviously Rakdos, this looks like black and red, so Rakdos deck. So again, wanting to take care of the threats, the electrostatic field with a key card, as we'll see in the match in his deck. So in this early stage of the match I wanted to just take that out. And again, the big advantage of coming back when we look at the deck tech about the Prison Realm, I think, is the scry is very useful. So scryed into some more land, which is fine. Now we get another key card from the opponent, the Dreadhorde, Arcanist. Those of you who know this card knows the idea of that is to keep returning sorcery and instant spells, sort of casting them over and over again. Tends to be a good card in Feather decks. Feather the Redeemer has a similar effect to keep returning the cards. So you see he follows up with another one. So his deck was built on having powerful sorceries and instants that he could return, and then obviously casting the instants and sorceries powers up damage from the electrostatic field. So quite a nice, simple, constructed deck in terms of what I was trying to do. Clearly having the Drake for this type of deck was useful, because it can block all the attacks. Now the interesting thing, coming back to the deck tech, one thing I didn't appreciate as an ability on the Drake, which I could have used in this match, so that's kind of one of the mistakes I made, but it's recognising actually, as well as just having protection from red as the Drake, Cerulean Drake has, it has a nice other ability of being able to sacrifice it and preventing damage to the player. So it acts as a protection for player, which for a burn deck with this opponent was playing would have been useful to use at the right time. But of course, in this case, I wasn't aware that I'm playing that and elected not to have that. But there's another serious mistake I make in this deck, which you'll see coming up. So with the 0-4, so here I go and fetch, and what I want to do, recognizing the arsonist being an issue, I don't want them to continue to be returning spells, so a cheaper version from a mana perspective was to bring back the Lawbinder's Mage. You'll see at this stage of the match, although I'm getting into some nice mana, the one big issue I had in this match was not drawing into a second blue land, second island. And this partly contributed to the loss, but as I said, I believe that if I played more correctly, particularly in these next few turns, I could have kept the match going long enough to draw into the all-important missing island. But we'll see what happens. So I fetched, so I can play out, first of all, just put some more defense on the board, bringing out the Fae of Wishes after having cast it to fetch the Law Mage's Binding. And of course I'm able to cast that again, mana efficiency point of view. Probably should have attacked there, but not sure why I didn't. Just more worried about anything else that might have come out that might have needed the untapped Drake. So playing conservatively. Here we see another example of the deck, of the opponent's deck, playing Claim the Firstborn to steal a creature. So going back to the play of trying to just have these powerful spells to do burn, but also stealing any sort of dangerous threats. The good thing about this deck, or particularly at this point in time, is I'm playing quite low power impact creatures, so although he gets to steal it and attack with it, it's not doing much in the way of damage to me. This here, this is where I could have sacrificed the Drake to have protected myself as a player from the damage. So that's 13 damage, of which I could have saved that. It would have opened up, obviously, it would have lost the protection of the Drake, so that's probably why I decided to leave the Drake up. So Law Mage's Binding, I don't think the Arcanist was the right target, not the, because it doesn't affect the ability. This is just really like tying it down. It's not stopping the, as far as I'm aware. I need to read the card again. So it may have been the electrostatic field might have been the better target here. But you'll see I have an opportunity which I didn't take, and that was the fatal mistake as it appears at the end of the match. So again, not really, so it was a good card to draw. The Dream Trollers are really a key card, but we're still missing this all important second island. And during the course of this match it doesn't get drawn, but what does get drawn next, it's an interesting one. So I've got this open mana, which is fine. I've got protection in the negate, which you'll see is going to come up with the, I think it's the next play from the opponent. So we still haven't seen all the cards that the opponents have, but he's obviously having plenty of mana. So I draw into a second negate with open mana, but again, only one open island, so at least I have the negate, but of course I can only cast one of them a turn because of the mana issues. So at this point I decide to tack in because I've locked down the Arcanist with the Lawmager's binding. You can see I've got both Gadwicks. So again, when I come to the deck tech, actually the deck is aptly named because actually I hadn't realised, but when doing the deck tech, I have a full play set of Gadwicks as well. So full play set of the Borrower, Brazen Borrower, full play set of Fae of Wishes, and full play set of Gadwick. Hence the name Borrow the Gadwish. But quite a nice little deck. I'm quite pleased with, quite expensive from the card point of view, and this is my free to play account, so I think it was just taking the time to craft some decent cards that made this deck possible with the cards I had. So finally the opponent removes, there was no protection obviously, so he's obviously trying to remove that, so that, but of course other than the burn he doesn't really have targets. So I have Banishing Light. Now arguably if I'd have been thinking about it properly with this deck, it'd probably been a good idea to banish the electrostatic field. I'm on 13, plays 17, so I wasn't necessarily at this stage of the match worried about my life total over much, given that that's something you do have to pay attention to with red decks in particular, but I was missing an important ability of the electrostatic field. But anyway, we come back with Fae of Wishes, so with still no blue, in this turn I use the Fae of Wishes, and the fetch in this case, I had considered like blowing away his board, which may have been something that was sensible to look at with having the mana probably for planar cleansing, but at this point in time I chose instead, so this may have been a mistake, I chose instead to try and draw into, with the acuity, to draw into this elusive missing island. So opponent plays Torben, again a very dangerous from the red deck's point of view, so I'm pleased in a way I had the Banishing Light that I hadn't cast, so it made sense to have the Banishing Light still available because it was important to get rid of this particular card. But I said the 0-4 is still a dangerous threat, and you know I hadn't really fully appreciated that until the latter stages of the deck, but even though I had the opportunity, as you'll see, I think coming up in the next turn. So the key objective for me in this match was trying to draw into this important, at least second island, although of course I still need a third island for the Gadwicks, of which I have 2 of. So I play Dovin's Acuity for the card draw. I was taking a look at the electric static field. Yeah, so when you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Casting the acuity put my health up as well, so again, was feeling reasonable at this point in time. I bring out the Wanderer, which is great for like protection of direct damage spells. But you'll see, so this is key for the opponent. If the opponent was unable to remove the Wanderer, which you'll see he does here with Bedevil, the Wanderer would have put the game beyond his reach. So obviously he had the tools. So in terms of what he was coming up against, presumably this is against Planeswalkers, but this particular Planeswalker, the Wanderer in this deck, was pretty key against direct damage spells, which of course the opponent is relying on to finish the match. So I'm tapped out by this point in time, so his next claim I can't cancel, negate, and then the opponent casts a light up the stage, and it's the light up the stage is enabled for him to draw. So here's the first start of the end. Skewer the critics. I was curious as well, I need to look back, maybe it's the fact that there's some ability still in the Arcanist, but quite why it was doing so much damage. So it seemed to appear to be doing 6 damage for each of that rather than just the 3. So I look at the Conclave Tribunal, so quite what I was thinking about, whether I was worried about other threats coming out with the mana that he had, but I really should have cast the Conclave on the electrostatic field. That would have given me the chance to stabilize or draw into this elusive, because with the second blue I could have had the Dream Trawler out, and that would have shored up my health quite nicely and probably have given me the match. But instead, for some, not sure I was thinking about whether I was worried about another threat, but yeah, I mean it was correct to play that and take out the electrostatic field and just get rid of that threat. But sadly, mistake. So the opponent plays Act of Treason, but the good point at this point in time, he's only stealing the 1/4 at the end of the day anyway, so not necessarily that big a deal, but of course it coupled with the burn damage, it all mounts up. So I was able to counter that, but that dropped the, to an extent, that dropped the, and maybe he was aware of that, so that's dropped the shield I had down with only the 1 blue, and it's these 2 skewer, so the extra damage being done because of the electric static field being on the board. So if I had played a Conclave Tribunal, I may have survived to try and draw into my second blue. So lost 1 there, so we're back to going on with the next match. So we've got 2 more matches before this finishes. This is the next one against Drobot. Quite an interesting match again, quite a quick one though. It's surprised the opponent, you'll see when it comes up to the opponent made a decent start, but I think my deck was running pretty well, drawing into some good stuff. But let's see what happens in this match. Fairly quick one from memory. So good opening hand, good a lot of mana. Early plays with the Drake, so definite keep. Good to see. Again, interesting as I said, running only 23 land in the deck. You know, drawing a 4 land deck with both your colours is pretty decent. I've got the Wanderer as well, which as we've seen can be quite key. So looks to be playing mono black. He's got the Knight out. So my turn 2 play with the Drake. It's obviously not a match for the Knight, and obviously I'm worried about the Knight. His 3rd mana allowing him to pump that up and becoming a threat. But the good thing is I draw the tribunal, so I cast out the land and the opponent leaves. Didn't even wait, it's odd, didn't even wait for the, so I'm not sure whether he just ran out of land or assumed that it was going to be countered, or just doesn't like playing against blue-white control, I guess. So quite a quick match, didn't really get going, but it's fine. It's just about getting to this next rank up. So this earns me, I go straight onto that, so within this same recording just go straight onto the next match because the other one was so quick. Straight into it. So I just need this win. Interesting deck. I think I've seen this, the avatar picture, the opponent's name, Schmoozely. It's quite an unusual name, but the avatar I've played with before, quite an unusual, tends to be quite unusual decks. It's quite an unusual avatar. So because I don't have my white at this point in time, but I have the early Brazen Borrower, so I was quite happy to play that out. Not take the mulligan, just rely on drawing in. This time blue's not the issue colour, it's obviously the white, but we'll see the white does turn up in this particular match. So I think the mana works reasonably well. I mean, I've seen matches with this deck where you lack blue, which we saw in the last match, can be an issue, particularly with the reliance in the blue, and then likewise the reliance on the white at important times for some of the important removal that the deck holds. So again, I need to review, I'll do that as part of the deck tech, just the mana splits to make sure I have that right. Should be more swayed probably towards blue, with particularly with the Gadwicks, triple blue for Gadwick. And of course I'm running all 4 copies of the Gadwick. So again, arguably from a deck point of view, but as I said, I do like this deck. I think it plays pretty well. It seems to get on most of the time, and I said, I've got 3 blue here, so having Gadwick, which you see I've drawn into, fairly confident about being able to cast it because I think the mana's pretty decent in the deck. But again, as I said, arguably there should be more land because I'm only running 23 land here, which seems a bit unusual for this type of deck. So something I will certainly look at when I'll probably be using this deck going forward, particularly if it performs as well as it has been doing. So here I want to get the power of Gadwick on the board, even though at this point in time he's only drawing the 1 additional card, but it's good to get the card, and you'll see actually the card was a good draw because I draw into my planes. In fact, well, it's my second planes, beg your pardon, so I was already okay with white mana, but now I've got the mana for Elspeth as well. So some interesting plays by the opponent in terms of how he choose to do some of this stuff. So we'll see this. So obviously this threat with a lifelinker. So we do a banishing light on that. So it takes care of it for now, but we'll see it back shortly with the opponent's play. Next play. So good thing I like about Gadwick, as I mentioned in the previous match, I do like the fact that he has a 3/3 body behind him as well, so tends to be pretty decent. I mean, not against some of the bigger creatures clearly, but tends to do a pretty decent job. So he uses Return to Nature to kill and therefore return his creature. So interesting because he's running green obviously, but obviously he's got tech in there with running the green to cater for this situation, given that he's got a key card that he doesn't want. And then of course he loads it up, so he's running 3 colour enchantments. Interesting combination. Haven't really seen the blue spells yet, but of course he may have had this in the deck. So now again, the advantage about having the second white, which we were talking about earlier, in fact now up to 3 white, so the mana was doing really well in this particular match. Very important. Again, choose to attack with all. He blocks obviously the 2/2. So he's got decent mana himself. He's got this 2/3 that hasn't really been a threat since it came onto the battlefield because of the creatures I had out. So he casts yet another Arch on Sungrace. I have the Tribunal. To take it down. And again he's tapped for mana for that with this 2/3. So again ramping into even more land, which is fine. I've got the Fae of Wishes. I attack him with a 3/3. Opponent has a reasonable amount of mana, but we'll see his next few plays. The key card again in this particular case was the Wanderers, we'll see. So he does a series of plays. He attacks with the 2/3 finally, but I have no blocks. I have another Gadwick. Elspeth brings back the Borrower, which I put +1 on, so it becomes a decent blocker, given that the opponent started to build the board out. So rather than playing, because again at this point in time, the Wanderer itself, we don't have any creature with power higher than, so currently this gets tapped down. It's the great ability with Gadwick, obviously casting a blue spell. So the fact if you cast Gadwick anyway, you've got 3 blue islands anyway to do the original casting, but then obviously the open mana you have with the blue, casting the blue spells allows you to start tapping stuff down. Very powerful. Great card, Gadwick. I mean, there are a lot of really good cards. The 3 key cards that this deck's built around, Gadwick, Fae of Wishes and the Brazen Borrower, are 3 excellent cards. So opponent now down to 2. Interesting little sequence from the opponent, using the green mana, pumping the lion up, ties down one of the attackers with pacifism. Used all his mana, he's got a decent 6/6. I have the Prison Realm, which I could have used, but at this kind I choose to use a Wanderer. So now I've got a target for the -2 ability on the Wanderer. using the -2 ability to exile the 6/6. Opponent says good game and then leaves. I mean, obviously I could have cast out the Prison Realm as well, but the match is over. So that ranks me up to gold tier 4. So free to play deck, decent couple of decks as I've shown you with the Gadwish Control and now this Azorius Control on a free to play account, ranking me up to effectively the first level of real competitive Magic in the gold rank. So the next series I will probably start with this deck. So let's take a closer look at it. Before we do that, I open a pack from the wins. Nice to get a Nyx Lotus. Sure, I'll put that to good use in future builds. So let's take a look at the deck. So 4 Cerulean Drake, so pretty much tech against, as you can see here, from mono red really, or red decks. It doesn't have to be mono red, so we've seen it in action against things like Rakdos, for example. So always the ability, protection from red, but this second ability, you can sacrifice it, one that I wasn't really aware of when I was playing that match that we watched. So that's a good ability. Then we have, again, full play set of Fae of Wishes, excellent card. Just when we go on to look at the sideboard, the ability to access the sideboard, tutor it effectively. And I've got a decent range of cards in the sideboard that we'll look at that I think do well in this deck in terms of what it's trying to do and what's needed at a certain point in time. We'll have a look at that when that comes up and you'll see what that's doing. So this basically gives you tech. Although I play this deck, really it's best of 1 ladder match, but it's good to be able to have Fae of Wishes giving you access to an effective sideboard, even though you're not playing sideboarded games. I think just gives you so much more. You're adding effectively another 15 cards to your deck, so it's win-win. Ether Gust, again, a bit of an unusual one. It's quite limited in its application, but can be useful. I have found it useful, so we'll keep that in there for those particular colored matches. Could have been a sideboard card, arguably, but it's currently in the main deck. Here you see the key star, tempo, from a tempo point of view, Brazen Borrower. For my money, arguably better than Teferi, but I'm sure people will argue against that. I appreciate Teferi can tick up and have multiple effects, but I think the Brazen Borrower is arguably superior, certainly in this deck. Say I only had the 1 Teferi, which I don't even run in this deck. You have the Prison Realms, which I like, as I said, you know, decent mana and the Scry. We've got the full play set of Gadwick, which is just an excellent enabler, card draw, just fantastic in this deck, so really, really important. It's good to have a full play set. Conclave Tribunal again, a couple of Conclave Tribunals, it's just against Planeswalkers. Wanderers we've seen, I think does really well, again, very strong against the red decks. So running a 2 of, I think, given its 4 mana. We didn't see this, Mass Manipulation. It's arguably an odd choice because it's got quite a strict mana colours, but we're playing 3 for Gadwick anyway, so with Gadwick being one of our main key win cons in some ways, and then of course we have the Dream Trawler. Here we can see the mana. So I run one castle. Again, this is probably because this deck I only have the one, I might run more. So I have the castle, the two castles in white and blue, Ardenvale. Let's have a look here at the just the overall stats of the deck. You see the curve, average of 3, decent curve, which is why I think I went for the 23 land. You see the mana distribution, so it's blue is definitely, there's more blue. It's about 2-to-1, a bit like we saw with Rakdos Control. We can see the various spell types. We've got a decent number of instants, sorceries. Quick look at the sideboard. So in the sideboard I have 3 pacifisms, so cheap to bring back and tie down creatures. Again, likewise Frogify for some more particularly difficult creatures. Sometimes you have to watch with pacifism. It just stops it attacking or blocking. Sometimes the abilities and creatures become important. So Frogify turns it into, and it loses all other abilities. So that can be very useful. So certainly stacked out with them. For card draw and life gain, Dove and Security, pretty useful. Again, tying creatures down, can't attack or block. Activated abilities can't be activated, so again, useful Law Mage's Binding to have access to that on the sideboard. And finally, a couple of board wipes, 2 planar cleansings. They were quite expensive, but of course, as I say, the deck seemed to be running pretty well in its mana. So that was the deck. So look forward to it in matches coming up, and I'll start with Gadwick to see how the climb from gold goes. Thank you for watching.